from a booklet called Faith-Based Statements on Climate Change. We'll find this one. Earth is our home. We are part of this world, and its destiny is our own. Life on this planet will be gravely affected unless we embrace new practices, ethics, and values to guide our lives on a warming planet. Unitarian Universalists are called to join with others to halt practices that fuel global warming, climate change, to instigate sustainable alternatives and to mitigate the impending effects of global warming. We need to respond with just and ethical practices. As people of faith, we commit to a renewed reverence for life and respect for the interdependent web of all existence. As I stated, this reading is part of a collection of statements in the book collected by Citizens Climate Lobby volunteers. Also included are statements from the Baha'i and the Buddhist community, Christian organizations including Anglican, Baptist, Church of the Brethren, Eastern Orthodox, Episcopalian, Evangelical, and others. There are statements representing Hindus, indigenous peoples, Judaism, Islam, Taoism, and still more faith-based organizations. But here's the thing. We Unitarian Universalists like to think that we are the only justice-seeking people. That's so much part of our spiritual tradition. That we are earth-loving, responsible stewards, more so than many others. However, we have been and are part of a broader community, an interfaith group, who understand that climate change is real, indisputable, and that all of us are partly responsible. We agree our blue boat home is in trouble. So how does it feel to know that our actions are contributing to the destruction of the earth as we know it? For me, this information provokes frustration and sadness. I admit that at times I'm inclined to crawl into a room of immense despair thinking, oh well, it's inevitable. Doesn't matter what I do, it's all over. I'm no different than other people. I can and do get stuck in a place that is absent of hope at times. And yet, I go back to a conviction I adopted several years ago. I have decided that maintaining hope and working in the direction of well-being, that is an act of defiance. I refuse to succumb to fear, to a closed heart and mind, and basically the attractive lure of overwhelming despair that leads to total inaction. I've decided not to give up. And yet, I can't pretend that I'm not aware of all that science is revealing. I must acknowledge that my actions are hurting the earth and her most vulnerable communities. My UU identity and my personal ethics are motivating me to wrestle more and more with the complexity of balancing my needs and wants with the pain and the well-being of others, humans and, yes, animals. I've become more aware of the lives of other sentient beings. Sentient beings are living and breathing beings, as well as Mother Nature herself. If I am a justice-seeking person that I believe I am, I must examine my daily habits, including what I eat, how often I drive my vehicle, run the air conditioner, what I purchase, and what I throw away. I have to consider how all of my behaviors are contributing to the suffering of others. It's like this. If we say we are justice-oriented, how can we not recognize that our habits have a negative effect on the lives of others? This is a question. Hear me now. This is a question for consideration. It is not a judgment statement. You must know, nothing makes me crazier than people who judge others. I still adhere to this biblical scripture from Matthew 7, judge not that you be not judged. For with the judgment you pronounce, you will be judged, and with the measure you use, it will be measured to you. If you don't believe in a God, then know that other people will judge you in the same way that you are judging. So I'm going to sit back. This is not about judgment. So my comments this morning are not a projection of judgment, just fodder. information for introspection. So understand this too. I've been asking myself this question. If I do my job as your minister, which includes sharing this Unitarian Universalist journey, then I need to share my thought process with you. We're in this together, right? So I repeat the question, if we say we are justice-oriented, how can we not recognize that our daily habits have a negative impact on the lives of many? So consider this, just as we march with posters, walk with the countless many young people who protest against the rise of gun violence and advocate for the poor and the rights of immigrants, why do we not contemplate changing our personal everyday behaviors? One of the reasons I love Unitarian Universalism is that on a Sunday morning, I can count on that one isn't going to be made to sit and listen to a series of statements intended to elicit guilt. That's not what I'm here for. You're welcome. Hallelujah. Yeah, I'm not insinuating that we feel guilty about anything today. I simply want us to explore some thought processes that have an influence on what each one of us does on a daily basis. Consider our diets, what we choose to eat. Science says that consuming large quantities of meat is having an adverse effect on people across the warming globe, complete strangers. Just because we don't know these people doesn't mean they aren't affected, right? Okay, now, again, I understand that one's personal choice for what one eats is, well, personal. If you eat meat, that's your choice. If you eat turnips, that's your choice. However, as a Unitarian Universalist minister, I can't be authentic without pointing out that at least 2 of our 8 principles address our approach to making food choices. We affirm, number 7, the interdependent web of all existence, of which we are a part. And the 8th principle, the one that you all adopted last spring, that says journeying towards spiritual wholeness by working to build a diverse, multicultural, beloved community by our actions that accountably dismantle racism and other oppressions in ourselves and in our institutions. If our choices contribute to the suffering of others, we need to pause and reflect. Now, acknowledging how our principles are intertwined, one could say they all pertain to our daily choices. But this morning, my topic easily addresses these 2. So my concern is not about meat eaters and non-meat eaters. It pertains to how much meat we consume, which prompts more production through factory farming. Here's some facts pertaining to factory farming of cattle. Over 37% of methane emissions result from factory farming. Methane has a global warming potential 20 times higher than carbon dioxide. But that doesn't make the carbon dioxide emissions any less staggering. The fossil fuels used in energy, transportation, and synthetic pesticides and fertilizers emit 90 million tons of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere every year. This pertains to factory farming. This is in the United States alone. Over 260 million acres of forest have been cleared to make room for crop fields, most of which are used to exclusively grow livestock feed. 1 pound of beef requires 1,799 gallons of water for its production and 660 gallons of water for 1 hamburger. This is equivalent to 2 months' worth of showers, which many in Port Charlotte, Cape Coral, Fort Myers, and Puerto Rico are longing to experience showers with clean water. Okay, as a side note, it only takes 45 gallons of water to make a pint of beer. Just a little side note. And much to my disappointment, it requires more than 400 gallons to make a chocolate bar. Tell me this isn't so. Now, various sources can, there'll be subtle differences. So people have argued with me in the past, and I understand you're going to find differing information. But most all of the science is telling us is that factory farming is not good. It's not helpful for our care for the planet. It's a contributing factor to global warming, which is causing horrendous weather events that have an adverse effect not only on communities like Everglades City, Immokalee, Miami, Panama City, and of course Arcadia, and the counties in Charlotte, are the people in Charlotte County and Lee County, and more. In Florida alone, there are this global warming has a harmful effect on people in other parts of the world with access to the fewest resources, such as safe shelter, food, electricity, and clean water. For example, residents in Haiti, where extreme poverty exists, are more challenged now by weather events that cause flooding to a population already compromised by poor access to health care and basics like food and shelter. In Sierra Leone, trees topple on the mountainside due to terrible, unprecedented storms. Fewer trees contribute to more warming. Food crops in Ethiopia are destroyed by severe floods, leaving more people without means to feed themselves. Okay, maybe we're thinking, well, that's some other country. They would be struggling anyway. But what about Puerto Rico? That's a territory of the United States. I've heard many people say also, well, the government needs to do something. Now, I don't disagree. But I wonder why I haven't heard one person say, wow, science is saying my habits are contributing to the rise of terrible storms. I'm making a promise to change my woe, W-O-E, my woe, my way of eating. However, I wonder if we could also say, I can forego meat for 1, 2, 3 days a week because it's better for the planet and it's an honorable way to treat other living beings. And if you have meat, locally sourced, small farms, might we say I can forego eating meat for 1, 2, 3 days a week? It's widely understood that the Dalai Lama wrote, "My religion is kindness." Where is kindness when we knowingly contribute to climate change, to adding to the destruction of Earth? Our Blue Boat home, that composer, Unitarian Universalist, he's a member of White Bear UU congregation in Minneapolis, Peter Mayer referenced in the song we sang this morning. Seeking to embrace a life of kind actions, I know that has many dimensions. Complexity is one of them. However, taking the proverbial hand of kindness, starting with that, saying to yourself, I view the world differently because of my commitment to you, kindness, that's a good place to start. Recognizing our connection to other living beings and to the earth, all nature is part of us, is comprehension at the deepest level of our connection to this interdependent web of existence. In ecotherapy circles, there exists this mantra, no human health is possible on a sick planet. The Reverend J. Leach said, we don't escape to nature, rather there is no escape from it. It is within us. And Thich Nhat Hanh wrote, we need to change our way of thinking and seeing things. We need to realize that the earth is not just our environment. The earth is not something outside of us. Breathing with mindfulness and contemplating your body, you realize that you are the earth. You realize that your consciousness is also the consciousness of the earth. Look around, what you see in the environment, it's you. When you realize the earth is so much more than simply your environment, you'll be moved to protect her in the same way you would protect yourself, in the same way you will reach out and protect strangers. And yet, many of the ways we consume on a daily basis has a violent aspect. Forests are cut down to raise cattle for beef or to grow grain for liquor, while millions in the world are dying of starvation. Reducing the amount of meat we eat and alcohol we consume by 50%, by just half, is a true act of love for ourselves, for the earth, and for one another. So you all know this. I'm literally preaching to the choir, or the choir that's not yet developed. But you all hear me. You've heard this before. Mine is a gentle reminder to myself and to you that we can do things on a small basis to hopefully have an impact. Here's some additional facts. Concern for the climate is not new. The very possibility that Earth's atmosphere and oceans could overheat from people burning fossil fuels was first suggested by a daring Swedish chemist named Savant Arrhenius in the 1890s. They assumed the ocean would absorb whatever traces of carbon dioxide humans might emit. Now, more than ever, we need to heed the results of science. It's one of our sources that we draw upon, found in that gray hymnal. Right under our principles, we heed the results of science. Number 2, from the World Health Organization, the atmospheric concentration of carbon dioxide has increased by more than 30% since pre-industrial times. I would estimate, since I composed this, it's even more. Pollen and other allergen levels are also higher in extreme heat. These can trigger asthma, which affects around 300 million people. Rising sea levels, I don't need to tell you that. The outcome from global warming. Increasing temperatures on the planet and more variable rainfalls are expected to reduce crop yields. 55% of the water consumed in the U.S. is animal agriculture. 55%. Now that I have provided a few facts, here's 7 ways to love the earth. Reduce our use of energy and our consumption of manufactured goods that become waste, including avoiding. Wow, anybody who's known me knows I've been preaching about not using plastic bags for so long. And it thrills me when I go to Publix and see that people bring in reusable bags, now more than 12 years ago. Plant and preserve trees and native plants. I am so pleased with the momentum building behind the food forest here on UUC grounds. I realize it can get messy and complex, but the fact that more than a few people are eager to do and learn more about the gift of what's on this land, that's very exciting. Eat and serve energy-efficient food that is locally produced and low on the food chain. Pursue your green sanctuary practices. Before I came here, I loved that I saw that you had already done the work to become a green sanctuary. Thank you. Support safe and responsible development of power sources with low greenhouse gas emissions. Number 6, promote access to family planning services in the United States and around the world. And 7, treat environmentally responsible practices as a spiritual discipline. Put the green veggies and the beans, a plate in front of you, and say to yourself, this is part of my spiritual discipline. I will learn to love this vegetables and beans more and more because it's my discipline. Again, hear me. I'm not saying do away with meat. I'm saying let's consume half, maybe, a little less. You and I are the chosen people. The chosen people are not the members of any particular religion, but all humans alive right now. We have been chosen by chance to be the ones whose actions will count at this pivotal moment in human evolution. What we hold sacred is what we will defend, wrote Nancy Ellen Abrams. Abrams continued, our job is to live with joy while doing everything we can to improve the odds for our descendants and our planet. Joy increases motivation. Our best hope is energized, not demoralized people who are vigorously and creatively attacking large-scale problems while guiltlessly living fun, loving lives on the small scale, and doing so whether we seem to be succeeding or not. Again, hanging on to hope is an act of defiance. Don't give up. And as the political activist Emma Goldman said, if I can't dance in this work, I don't want to be part of your revolution. What are you doing to be part of this evolution, this revolution? What earth-saving choices have you made? What are your next steps? This is a personal question for each of us, including myself. Who is wise and understanding among you? Show by your good life that your works are done with gentleness born of wisdom. From James. Whatever choices you make in the future, I hope you do so with a commitment to join me on a quest to learn more about how to care for our precious earth, this blue boat home. May it be so.